All right, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see some familiar faces. It's officially football season, so I know you guys are excited as I am to kick this thing off at home here this Friday against Bethune Cookman here at Pitbull Stadium. So it's been a long time coming. Seems like December 7th was yesterday, but again, it's game week. So guys have been working extremely hard. We're excited, and we look forward to seeing a great atmosphere, great environment on Friday as we try to kick the season off on the right foot.
Questions from the room for Coach.
Coach, to put a bow on the fall, like who was a surprise player? Who really stood out as somebody maybe you didn't quite expect, player or players?
Well, obviously Josiah McGrew has had an amazing training camp. He'll probably start at safety for us as a true freshman, which I'm not sure when the last time that's been done. Just made plays, since the day he stepped foot on campus. Very smart, cerebral football player. Great ball skills, great length, and with he and Shamir Sterling back there, 6'2" plus safeties. It's pretty imposing, and so now we're still deep at the position. Antonio Patterson, Wesley FTN, Demetrius Hill. Those guys have done a great job. Bobby Sala, but I think Jeremiah has done enough to solidify himself in that spot, and he's probably been the biggest surprise of training camp.
What about on offense, if you had to pick one?
Offensively, probably another true freshman, Tyson Carter, has done a really good job coming in. Have a talented receiver core. But I think he's going to find his way on the field. He's going to play some special teams for us as well. But like Brian Blaze said the other day, he's probably the only player on the team faster than Brian. So he can really, really run. And I think he's going to be able to stretch the field for us offensively, as well as give us some value in the kicking game. So those two guys fresh out of high school have probably impressed us the most of all the newcomers.
When you saw us Bethune, what was your reaction to an opponent you're very familiar with?
Yeah, I was very excited to be able to schedule Bethune. To open the season. Obviously, very familiar with them. They're very familiar with me. From my time at Florida A&M. Again, and for all intents and purposes, Bethune has had FIU's number. Of course, this program's never beaten them in 4 tries, and so we reminded our guys of that during our scout report. Definitely not a team that you can take lightly. A lot of these guys know each other from high school. The two staffs are familiar with one another, and so and it's the first ball game. You never can tell what's going to happen in that first ball game. So obviously we want to make sure that we try to take care of the little things, be fundamentally sound, and make sure that we don't beat ourselves. And that's always the goal every week, but especially week 1, being that this will be our first true competition against another opponent.
Last time we spoke, you said there was one position battle between Michelle and Citadel. You see one of them starting specifically or rotating? How's that going to work?
Yeah, Michelle will start. His experience with the system probably gives him a little bit of an edge. But Miguel will play, and so Coach Patter's got those guys on a rotation, whether it will be every series, every other series, but they both will play at that right tackle spot. But Michelle has done a really good job, and he's given us some flexibility, being that he can play right and left tackle. And so between those 3 guys, Jaleel Davis, Michelle, and Miguel, we feel like we got 3 solid tackles that obviously can protect lights.
Just like Bethune, just what stands out about them and how different maybe schematically are they doing? Just how different is it from what you were used to maybe a few years ago?
Yeah, obviously they have some dynamic playmakers. They have a receiver that can really, really run. Last ball game against Florida A&M, I think had close to 200 yards receiving. And it's Bethune Cookman. They're a team from Florida. So the one thing you know about a Florida team is they're always going to be talented, a lot of skill. And so obviously they won't be intimidated by our speed. There'll be some positions they may actually be faster than us. So we definitely have to make sure that we stay on top, keep everything in front. Play well on the perimeter. We feel like our advantage may be inside with our size, but again, whenever you play a team from Florida, you better be ready for a track meet.
Coach, we talked about the 2 freshmen. Any other freshmen that are looking like they might start, or even on the 2 deep? And second part of my question is, when you do start a freshman or play a freshman a lot, what does that tell recruits down the road, and what are the benefits of that, showing that you're not just going to play seniors and the oldest guy, you're going to play the best guy? What does that do for your efforts going forward?
Yeah, Jackson Verdugo is a guy that was here this spring as a true freshman. Sometimes you forget Jackson's a true freshman. One, he's married with 2 kids, and so you forget that he's an 18-year-old, and the fact that he's been there since January. But Jackson has impressed us since the time he stepped foot on campus. So he's definitely going to play for us at the tight end position, along with the other 3 guys, Braden, Dallas, and Justin. But again, in this new era of college football with the transfer portal and things the way they are, you have to be prepared to develop young players. And so for us in this program, we're going to play the best guy, like you said. And if that guy's an 18-year-old freshman or a 24-year-old sixth year, we're going to play the guy that gives us the best chance to win. And a lot of those young guys, Tyson Carter, Jackson Verdugo, Josiah McGrew, they've come in and they've stood toe-to-toe with guys that have been in this program and been in college football for a long time. And so that's a good sign for the 20 commitments that we do have, because, again, it proves to them that if they come in ready to go, ready to play next year, that they'll have the same opportunities.
Preparation-wise, what's been the mentality you're instilling into the team, both sides of the ball this week, to make sure you guys are starting fast? And then when it comes to leadership, how big have some of the upperclassmen been in really just making sure everyone's going to be ready to go on Friday night?
Well, from a preparation standpoint, we really started that back in July. Our practice format has been the same since really practice 4. We've taken a game approach to how we stretch out our 7 days. So typically for us, the week starts on Sunday, and so we're coming in, we're in shells. It's not a grueling practice, a lot of fundamental work first day of the week. The next day is our day off. The players get a day of rest, to watch film and recover. The day after that is a grueling, full padded, long practice. That was yesterday for us. The next day is more of a situational, third down, red zone, 2-minute emphasis. And then walk through on a no sweat Thursday. And then we come out with Fast Friday where we're going full speed with no pads on. So that's been our routine. So I told the guys today, nothing's going to change because it's game week. We've been in this routine for the last month now. So nobody should be anxious. Nobody should feel nervous. Nobody should feel like they have to do anything differently because of how we prepared. And to me, you can't treat game day different than you treat practice. And I know that sounds crazy, but for us, we say you practice football and you play football. We practice football doing individual drills, doing walkthroughs, doing film sessions. But when we spot the ball, whether it's doing one-on-one drills, a team rep against our defense, or this Friday against Bethune Cookman, we're playing football. And so we get in the habit of playing football, and if you do that, it keeps you from feeling like you got to do a little bit more because it's game day.
Coach, you mentioned back at Media Day the offensive line had the potential to have some of the most competitive battles for starting spots in the fall. For the offense specifically, do you think that turned out to be true? And what position on defense would you say had the most competitive battles?
Yeah, that's definitely true for the offense. Obviously running back's a really deep position as well. We talked about the tight end room where we have 4 guys that we feel really good about. And so there's not so much at this point positional battles as the who the starter is. We're excited the fact that we have multiple guys that we can put into a game, and we're not restricted by play calls, or we're not worried about the guys physically overmatched. And so that was the goal offensively, to build that quality depth. We feel like we've done that. On the defensive side of the ball, cornerback and safety are probably the 2 positions that are most similar. Obviously we talked about Josiah McGrew and Shamir Sterling, but again, as we mentioned, D. Hill has a lot of playing experience. Antonio Patterson may be the most talented one of the entire group. Bobby Salas had a solid training camp. Mr. Clark can play all throughout the secondary. And so, again, we have a lot of quality bodies that we can put back there. So it doesn't matter who really runs out as the first 11. We know that we're deep enough that whenever the ball is snapped, that we have quality players on the field, and that's always the number 1 goal.
How many guys do you potentially see rotating there at wide receiver for this first game?
As many as we need to play. We're going to be up-tempo. Obviously, first game, so you get those first game jitters, that fatigue, and all those things set in. And so we want to try to roll as many in as we can. Luckily for us, it's a home game, so everyone would dress. But right now, we have about 10 or 11 guys that we feel good about that can go into a football game. So the goal is to make sure that those guys are prepared for everything that we'll do. That, again, we don't have to limit play calls based on who's in the game. But again, we feel good. Even the 3 freshmen that we brought in can go in and compete at a high level. So again, great job by our recruiting staff to identify a lot of quality young men who set a great foundation for this program.
Can you talk about Williams and Isaac? You already mentioned Carter. Just talk about how impressive those guys have been throughout the camp.
Well, Mari impressed us the first time we saw him during OTAs. When they go out there on their own and throw and catch, and he's making one-handed catches, and he's a big, strong, physical receiver. And so he's physically ready to play right now. He's over 200 pounds. I think he did 225 like 13 times or something like that, which as a true freshman is unbelievable. There are NFL receivers who can't bench 225 13 times. And so for him to come in and do that as an 18-year-old freshman shows his physical prowess. And then Kenny's just a smooth operator. He's just that savvy, silky route runner. Great balance, great body control, really can influence the defensive back, and has strong hands. And so all three of those freshmen have really shown a great skill set, and again, set a solid foundation for us out wide, and it really gives us confidence that even if we have to play those guys, that they'll go in and make plays for us.
When it comes to running back position, you guys have, in my eyes, a really solid top three, and even guys beyond that could even contribute. Is there a specific snap share in mind that you have for these guys, or are you kind of taking more of a game feel approach where, if the guys in a rhythm, you're not going to take them off the field?
Well, we kind of let Coach Hippolyte control the running back rotation. He's with those guys every day. He's done an amazing job developing them, and he'll have a pitch count for them. Obviously KJ will start the game. Anthony will back him up, and then Tay will be ready to go when his name is called. And so we have three running backs that we really, really feel good about. Again, if I look out and Devontae Lyons is on the field, I have no reservations to call any play within our playbook. Same as Anthony Carey. And so that gives us, again, confidence. But even guys like Jordan Clemens, he's had a phenomenal training camp. Sterling Joseph has a very, very bright future for us as a running back. And so, again, I can't say enough about the job that our coaching staff, recruiting staff has done. When I got here, the emphasis was we want to build a deep roster. I think that's the way to survive in today's climate. You may not be able to get the star power or keep the star power that maybe you had in the past with the T.Y. Hiltons and the Jonathan Cyprians and those guys because of the transfer portal and NIL. But if you have a deep roster, one major loss like an Eric Rivers, like a Trey Barnes, doesn't kill your program. And we feel like we're building that now with the freshman class that we just brought in, and hopefully being able to hang on to the 20-plus freshmen that we have committed so far.
Coach, who would you say were some of the veteran players at FIU that you think took up the leadership role with some of the newer guys the best here during these fall practices?
Well, obviously it starts with Lights, being the returning quarterback. So Lights is taking a heavy leadership role within the offense. Keegan Davis and Brian Blaze on the defensive side of the ball have really stepped in as leaders. But then even some of our transfers, Big Sue, even though he's a transfer first year, he came in and really established himself as a leader. Same with Johnny Chaney. And so, like we said, leadership comes in all forms. They're even young guys, who try to lead. And so we want to develop some some older leadership. Naturally, you kind of get a little bit more respect when you've been through the fire. But in today's climate, I have no problem with an 18-year-old being a leader. Josiah McGrew is making all the calls and all the checks on the back end. Guess what? He's a leader of the secondary, and we encourage him to be that. And so we feel good about the leadership that we have. But obviously Keegan Davis, Lights, Brian Blaze, those guys have really, really taken the mantle because this is their last opportunity. Or at least for Keegan and Brian, this is their last opportunity to make a mark in their college career. Lights has another year, but those you can see the eye of the tiger or the eye of the panther, so to speak, in those guys' eyes.
So you wanted to be the closest team in America by the end of this camp. Just how do you think your team did that? How did it?
I definitely think we've made significant strides. You see the guys doing things together, hanging out. Obviously, we had the Magic Show a few days ago that went over really well. We actually had a fight in practice today, 2 of them. So I think that officially solidifies us as a close-knit family because you're not a true family until you come to blows with each other. But again, these guys, they've worked really hard to really buy into that family culture. Like I said, everybody in the country uses it. There's not a team in America that doesn't talk about family. And so, like I always tell them, if everybody uses it, well, what makes ours different? But I see certain things by how they interact with each other in the locker room, in the team meeting room, on the field, even at meals, that let me know that they're really, really buying in and trying their best to be the closest team in America.
Coach, you mentioned preparing for Bethune Cookman during your time at Florida A&M. Is there a personal feeling of nostalgia for having to take on this team? Like, how would you compare and contrast having to do that all over again here at FIU compared to your time at FAMU?
That's a great question. It's a little bit different. There was something about walking out in the Camping World Stadium knowing that it was a rivalry game. This isn't a rivalry game for us per se. It's the first game. Obviously, we're very excited, looking forward to the opportunity, but our rival game is in 2 weeks, and that'll be a little bit different, but and everyone knows there's something different when you play your rival. Every game's important, every game's big. We all know that, but you're talking about 365 days of bragging rights when it comes to your rival. So not saying there's no pressure on me to win. There always is. But I'm not worried about the Thanksgiving conversation this week. I was worried about the Thanksgiving conversation for those 5 years when we ended the season down in Orlando if we didn't win. So, but it is a nostalgic feeling to open the season against a team that I'm very familiar with. That was a rival of mine for the last 5 seasons as a head coach. So I look forward to shaking Coach Woody's hand and sharing some stories in pregame, and even other coaches on that staff that I've built a relationship over the years.
Talk about the turnout in person. I know you were out there yesterday, and just your message to the fans who come out to the game.
Yeah, well, if we can get everyone that was in first night to come back, we'll have a great crowd on Friday. But I think the excitement's there, and the excitement's growing. It's the largest freshman in class that we've had in the history of the university, and so hopefully the word is spreading to get them out to the game on Friday, and hopefully we put on a good show for them to make them want to come back. And I truly believe great game day atmospheres are mainly because of great student participation. And so if we can get our students out, get them excited about football, even if they don't understand football, just get it, learn when to cheer. When you hear everybody else cheering, you cheer with them, And I'm sure our marketing team is working hard now to try to make the game day environment fun for them. And if we can continue to do that, I think Pitbull Stadium can be one of the most intimidating environments in Conference USA.
Maybe just 1 or 2 questions more for Coach.
From an overall team perspective, what's the main thing that you want to see, whether it's offense or defense, on Friday night?
I just want to see us play clean football. I tell them all the time, great teams don't beat themselves. I'm a competitor. Everyone who's been around me knows that. I'm probably one of the most fierce competitors that you'll ever meet. But I can lose gracefully. If I go out and I've done my best and I've worked extremely hard and someone is better than me on that day, I can sleep at night. But what keeps me up at night is if I know that I went out and I did uncharacteristic things that didn't give me the best opportunity to win, and I got beat because of my mistakes. And so if we go out and we don't make silly mistakes, the pre-snap penalties, the post-whistle penalties, the unsportsmanlike penalties, and missed assignments, things of that nature, I'll be happy with the result, whatever it is, because every game is an opportunity to grow and to learn. Obviously, we want to win the game. We want to start the season on the right foot, love to be 1-0, but in the grand scheme of things, this isn't a conference game. Everything we're playing for starts 3 weeks down the road. So I want to play clean football Friday. When we turn the film on Saturday, we see a team that has learned, that has embodied our 7 Fs, and that's put a good product on the field. And I think our fans will appreciate that as well.
Brian, Coach is in here, is talking up the young safeties. Said McGrew as a freshman, as starting the job. He talked about Shamir. What are your thoughts on those 2 gentlemen?
Oh, it was great, young, talented players. Like Josiah came in here making plays first day, like training camp. So both of them going to be like a big part in our defense.
How surprising is that to see a freshman starting at safety?
Yeah.
And again, over some veteran guys.
Mm-hmm. Ask the question again?
How surprising is it to see a freshman start at safety?
I mean, it's not really surprising because, like, back in training camp, I seen how talented he was. So he continued to make plays and was consistent. So I already could see he was going to start sooner or later.
Friday night, what are going to be your emotions?
My emotions? It's going to be, some emotions, like my first game or whatever. But, I've been waiting on this moment. I'm trying to get to that next level.
Talk about Bethune, just what stands out about their offense.
Oh, Bethune? They have great players, We really can't fall asleep, so we got to make sure we're hitting all the details, make sure we're doing all the small details.
Where have you grown the most from the start of camp up until today?
Start of camp? My leadership, I feel like I had to become that role, coming from last year, now my last year, so I got to be that big brother to other people, so, that's a big part.
What would you say your leadership style is?
Really, I like to, just lead by example. I'm not too much of a talker, so I got to make sure I'm doing all the right things so the guys can follow behind me.
What are some other guys in that room that have really stood out to you?
In the cornerback room?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely my guy, Ash, Ash moved. Vic made a big jump too, G7. And Jack, I feel like the whole room improved.
When it comes to you guys as a whole, in terms of growing together, how has that bond between the defensive back room and your room specifically grown from the start of camp until now? And what's been your favorite part of just being with those guys every single day?
I love being with those guys every day. I feel like our communication is way better. We can talk to each other about anything, whether it's on the field, off the field. So when you can do that, it's easier to talk on the field.
Brian, you mentioned the level of competition at these FIU practices back in the spring. spring. Talk about how that carried over into the fall.
Well, it definitely carry over, you know, the guys, everybody's keeping each other, you know, holding each other to like a high standard. So every day we come out and compete and get each other better.
Having played many close games against FCS opponents in the past, just talk about the importance of not overlooking an opponent like Bethune to start the season, even with opponents like Penn State, Florida Atlantic around the corner.
Yeah, we can't fall asleep. We're taking every team the same way, you know, we're attacking every team and just make sure we hit all the small details, like I said.
Willie said you guys, one of his goals was to make you guys the closest team in America. How do you think you guys fared throughout, this off season on that?
Nah, I feel like we definitely are one of the closest teams in America, you know, off the field, you know, everybody, you know, is with each other, so everybody loves each other, so it's great.
When you step onto that field Friday night, what is going to be your mentality in terms of just an overall mindset, game planning, everything? And as an overall defense, what are you guys trying to accomplish right off the bat?
For me, I just want to make sure I'm doing my 111 and make sure I'm doing my job, so I don't, like other guys have to worry about me and like what I'm doing. You know, as an overall defense, we just gotta come out and just be dominant. You know, show every part of the ball. You know, whether it's a D line, secondary, just make sure we show that we ready to dominate people.
I guess from facing this offense for so long now, just how excited are you to watch them from the sidelines, see what they what you think they could do on Friday?
Our offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna be an explosive offense. You know, with AP at receiver and Kyle, and we got KJ at running back. You know, with Lights at quarterback. So it's gonna be, I feel like, the best offense in the league.
Who was the toughest cover in training camp?
The toughest cover? It's hard because, I mean, AP, Kyle, but, you know, we got some young receivers, too. That's nice. I feel like some of the best we had come in here in a minute, so you can't take it lightly with nobody in that room.
Brian, a familiar face that's going to be on the other side of the field is going to be Amari Jones. Even if he doesn't play, just talk about what it'll mean to see him again.
Oh, it's cool, you know, seeing one of my old teammates, you know, another team just, go out there and just compete. And after the game, we can be friends, but during the game, I ain't trying to holler at you.
Coach Simmons referred to Coach DeWitt as one of the most energetic coaches at practices, despite being the quote-unquote elder statesman of the team. Can you confirm that?
Oh, Coach who?
DeWitt.
DeWitt? Yeah, DeWitt. DeWitt is a funny coach, but, it's a great coach to be around. He always brings the energy, Even during practice, he always got a little side joke for you or whatnot. But, I love Coach DeWitt.
Is there anything you'd like to say to potential NFL scouts in attendance that might be interested in what you bring to the table here in your senior season?
Oh, what I like to say?
Yeah.
I mean, you getting a player that's going to, run to the ball, tackle, cover, everything. You getting a dog.
You guys had a lot of consistency in the defensive coaching staff, even with the change. DeWitt still being around, KU still being around, Gator being around. Just talk about what that's done for the group defensively, especially in the preseason here.
I feel like that's good, keeping the coaches from last year, especially like guys like KU and Gator, Gator for the coaching, like for the secondary, that was big, that's a lot of reason why, like, a guy like me stayed. So, having coaches like that and that's been to the next level and give you those like tips and reminders and keys, that's great.
Any more questions for Brian?
For you personally, Juice, what was the biggest difference this training camp as opposed to like last year?
Opposed to last year's training camp? I mean, like I say all the time, the competition, and just the environment is just different. Everybody wants to be there and like having fun at practice. So when you have that, you can get better every day.
For you personally now as the leader in the room, when you see a young guy like Ash make a big play, you get like an extra big smile?
Of course, anybody, like a freshman, it don't matter who it is, I'm happy, I love my guy.
Any more questions for Deuce? I appreciate you, Brian.